Hi there, welcome to the first episode of Miracle Stars, the podcast produced and created by Minjic. Today we are having Minjic's very first represented artist, Peter Piek. Hi Peter!
Hello!
He is a well-known artist recognized as a painter, singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and performance artist. As an ultra-contemporary German artist, he is known for the music in his paintings and the sound in his colors. He uses his music to explore various philosophical quests and manifests these discussions in the subject of travels and movements. Today we will focus on talking about how he integrates his travel experiences into art in his photography collection, Meten. Did I pronounce it correctly, Meten?
Yeah, you do. It's a series of photographs that I do of my watercolor and ink drawings. Yeah, I've been traveling and basically as a musician, as a touring musician, I started traveling like 10 years, 12, 13, 14 years ago. And then the longer my travels got, the more I had the urge to paint while I'm gone. Because here in my studio, when I'm at home, I have no problems with that, of course, but when I'm gone, I had the feeling I want to do something, and then I started to make this little drawings that I could do just on the road, and then when I had them, since I'm always trying to find connections, connections between music and painting, and also connections between people and connections between lines, just everything just interests me. And of course I have a camera. So I started to do these photos, and then I figured I could connect some of the lines with something in the landscapes.
So, would you say it was your music that inspired your paintings more?
Yeah, totally. I mean, the music, but also actually the lifestyle that you have as a musician. Yeah, I mean, I had to find a way to still be able to paint while I'm not in my studio. Sometimes, it's all just invented out of a lack of something, of a void maybe, of something that you want to do. There was no really, I didn't have the idea of doing this, it all just happened. There was no, let's...
Can you talk a little bit about the process? Because you mentioned that you make a painting at one place and you will take the photo in the next place. It's a very interesting idea how you try to build a connection with this movement. I think it's a conceptualization of putting the idea of movement into your art.
Yes, true. That's an interesting thought. Well, it all really comes again down to this lifestyle that I used to have as a musician before COVID. So I was on tour, and then every day you're at a new location, so you're on constant movement, and then you have these little stops, and these watercolor ink drawings, some of them I was working on for a year. I mean, not constantly, but when I'm back home, sometimes I also just leave them for months, and then when I go on tour again, I start working on it. But more often it was the case that, for instance, when I'm on tour for a month, I'd be able to finish one or two. I would work usually actually before the concert, because it really helps me to be by myself and to relax, which is really nice. So I would do that for a little while every day, and then after 2 weeks, let's say, more or less, after all these little steps, so I would finish this piece, and then eventually at some place in the coming days, I would take the photo. And it's a little bit, there's a lot of randomness to that too, because of course I don't plan really where I stop and have a coffee, for instance. and then I have some time, and the light is good. It's just, but there's a lot of connection to it too, because I mean, it's the same country, it's the same area more or less, it's the same culture, the same season, like all those things, they matter, and I think they can be seen in the work.
So you're saying that you picked the location randomly, but you often also try to connect the texture on your painting to the context. Like, for example, with the Eiffel Tower, you also align the lines in your paintings with the context and the landscape. What was on your mind when you connected two places with your photography and art? Okay, next one.
It's cool. No, it's good. I can answer to that. Sometimes no idea is also an answer. It's a valid answer because it's a little bit like when I'm painting and drawing. I don't really have anything in mind usually, and but that might be a good thing, even more like a river. The river doesn't have anything in mind, it just flows. There might be a waterfall or a lake to flow in, but it's all happening, it's all, I'm soaking up the environment, of course, and I'm looking for connections, which is difficult sometimes. Sometimes I take up to 100 photos, sometimes less, but it's gotten way more difficult now with the circus. It was kind of easy because I had line would just go to the edge of the painting, but now everything is like within. It's inside. Everything is inside, and the painting itself doesn't reach out anymore to the environment. So it's gotten way more complicated and complex. But it's very natural. Like the more you get into it, and the better you get, the more alone you are in your field.
Yeah. So I actually really wanted to talk about. So the series stretched through 2016 to 2021, but it also seems that you're still working on it. And I wonder, how did all of these travels took place? Were they all music performance or?
Okay, it's difficult to answer somehow. I started traveling in the early days just for traveling, but I kind of abandoned this idea for many reasons. Mostly, probably I couldn't really afford it. Secondly, I think it's much nicer to have a reason. I somehow need a reason, even if it's not really a legit reason at all. Just a little thing, like a little tiny concert in front of 5 people would be enough to give me a reason to travel a long distance. But also, I started traveling with the music, but the more I got into doing this, I also had more connections and more possibilities to organize exhibitions. And now when I travel, it's almost half. It's almost half concert and half exhibition. And also, there's no really difference between the two things anymore. I mean, the difference is still there, but it gets less and less. I mean, in every opening, I play a concert usually. And with every concert, I would have some paintings with me. And if there's a chance to show them, I would do that.
You also told me a lot about how intense things can get when you are like traveling from one place to another, and oftentimes you stay at one place in a very short amount of time because you are there only for music performance. Do you usually feel the sense of time is longer or shorter when you're traveling, and how does this manifest in your work?
I think time feels longer for the more things that are happening. In general, when it's all gone, it feels really fast. It feels like a second. But at the time being, since not everything, but there's a lot of challenges and a lot of things, a lot of first things, and these usually capture your brain much more than the usual, like brushing my teeth and stuff like that. So So I think this expands time to some extent, for sure.
Do you always love traveling?
Actually, there was one point where I thought I'm in a trap. Because in 2019 I did this trip with the train from Moscow to Beijing, the famous Trans-Siberian train. And it was strange because I loved it, it was beautiful, but I booked a ticket, I made the decision. I freely choose to do this travel, but when I was in the train I thought like, oh man, I wish I could stop the train and just leave and go explore all those places that I was just passing by. So sometimes you get trapped by your own ideas. You know, you want something and then you have it and you realize, you know, maybe it wasn't actually what maybe.
So what do you find different in the way you work when you are able to make paintings in your studio and when you're on the road? It's like a very, very different type of like mode.
Yes, in a way yes, but in many ways no. In many ways it's just the same. I mean, drawing, especially the way I do it, it's trying to keep those connections open and to have these. Sometimes it works better than sometimes it doesn't work, but I usually try to collect things and then be within them, kind of. Actually, I had a funny experience the other day. A month ago, I was in Switzerland and I was installing one of those sticks for my new project, One World, One Painting, and it's this 2 meter long, very thin piece of wood, just yellow, and it's a little bit like a spear, like for hunting animals. In Bern, in Switzerland, it's this beautiful old city within, not really a mountain, but there's a river going around the city center. And it's really steep, and there's a bridge, an old bridge, which is super high. And then I found a way. Someone told me there's a way to actually get underneath the bridge, like underneath the surface of the bridge. And it was very exciting. And it was dark, it was foggy, and I had this stick in my hand. And somehow I felt, I'm not sure if I should actually tell this, I felt like really connected to like really humans like 10,000 years ago. It was like some sort of ancient memory flash.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was really strange. I was like, it was just like this feeling that I actually couldn't have witnessed because it's not my kind of environment. I don't hunt. I don't even eat meat. Seemed like it came from something really far. And in this way, I also paint a little bit. I mean, I'm not even trying. I'm just collecting things, and then and with this collecting things, everything becomes valuable. Even shitty experience, which I also, I mean, in my case as a musician that is not famous, you also encounter a lot of shitty experiences, but somehow they are also worth experiencing sometimes.
I love that. Do you always feel connection with the land you visit?
There's places you connect more easily, let's put it like that. And some other places are just too far away from their culture, but like the basic thing, like the humanity or like the root of it all is just simply the same. So sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper.
So one more question, two more actually. So can you talk about the first time you were out of Germany?
First time I was out of Germany, I have the tendency to forget things a lot. But it was my grandfather who took me on vacations, and he took me to the States, to San Francisco. We've been to Egypt.
Oh my God! college?
together, yeah.
Your first trip was to San Francisco.
It's possible. It's really possible. I mean, we also went to Morocco and to Egypt and to Israel. So we went to a couple places.
How long was it?
It was when I was born here in east of Germany, and and 9 years I was actually behind the Iron Curtain, or on one side of the Iron Curtain. So I couldn't really. Traveling wasn't a thing that people would do here. I mean, people would travel to the east, but not really. It's just world was much smaller, and then it opened up very quickly. And then my grandfather, who used to travel even in the east, like he would go to Azerbaijan and those places. Then he was like focused on the West, and of course he also went to the States.
So finally, now you can be back on the road. You're going to a road trip in May. Can you talk a little bit about your trip?
Yes, so I also did these installations with the six, with these flying elements, just lines, and I started in 2016. And then looking back on this range of work, I thought it feels like one work rather than an installation there and an installation there. So maybe that's possible, and I'm trying to extend the idea of what painting can be. So I'm starting a new project, and the question it asks, what is painting, and is it possible to create a feeling with elements that are spread out on several places, several countries, several continents even, if it's possible to create some sort of identity. So I'm building a website for this, and I'm actually asking people to join this project. And I'm going to Georgia and Armenia and Turkey, Greece. So like in the same direction that I traveled last year, just a little bit further. Yeah, I will install a few elements on the way. Also play a few concerts and do exhibitions too. And also just will be swimming and enjoying.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter, for sharing your thoughts and ideas behind the hand collection and your travels. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
It won't be long. I picked on the wall. It won't